Welcome to the Sharma show. Today on the show, we're going to talk about a murder of a Hindu boy in Kasganj in UP and what happened there, and the double standards when it comes to covering Hindus and Muslims in the Indian media, and what we can do as a community to sort of fight those double standards as well. My name is Sharma. Let's start the show. Hello, and welcome. Welcome to another edition of the Sharma show. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you. Again, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you do, please consider subscribing. And if you are a regular watcher of the show and you have not subscribed already, please make sure to subscribe. All right, so it was Republic Day in India recently. So first of all, let me wish everybody watching in India and Indians abroad a very happy Republic Day. So during the Republic Day, there was a Tiranga yatra that was allegedly organized by the student group ABVP. Now, it may be organized by ABVP, but there was a lot of non-party affiliated people that were taking part in that Tiranga yatra as well. So according to reports, they entered a Muslim area in Kasganj in UP chanting Bharat Mata Ki Jai and Vande Mataram, and it is insane that we have reached a point in our country where chanting Bharat Mata Ki Jai and chanting Vande Mataram upsets people in India. So as you can guess by now, it did upset certain members of the Muslim community, and they started pelting stones at this procession. Now this, of course, angered some of the people in that procession, and allegedly they started chanting things like Agar Hindustan mein rehna hai to Vande Mataram kehna hoga, which is not something I 100% agree with. But again, if you're being pelted with stones just for saying Bharat Mata Ki Jai and just for saying Vande Mataram, I mean, I can understand that making you a little angry. Of course, then what happened was this led to some violence, and some members of the Muslim community started shooting, and one of these bullets hit a young boy named Chandan Gupta, and he died of his wounds. And then, of course, the Hindu group shot back as well, and one of the Muslim people was shot in the leg as well. So this was, of course, a very tragic death. This was, of course, a death that could have been avoided, and this was, of course, a case of communal hatred towards Hindus just for chanting things like Bharat Mata Ki Jai and just for saying things like Vande Mataram and just for taking a Tiranga yatra through UP, through their own country. And this is where the media hypocrisy is laid bare, and this is where you see the insane double standards in covering two different communities by the media. So we all remember when the Akhlaq issue happened in Dadri, when a man named Akhlaq was lynched, and everybody and their dog heard about it because the media and the intellectual establishment would not stop talking about it. And they made it a point to point out that Akhlaq was a Muslim that was killed by Hindus, and they made sure to point it out as a communally inspired incident. Now let's look at some of the media coverage that's going around this incident where Chandan Gupta was murdered. And again, as you can see, they don't even mention that this was a Hindu-Muslim clash. They don't even mention that it was Muslims who started stone pelting when some people were passing through that area chanting Bharat Mata Ki Jai and Vande Mataram. They didn't even question once why the chanting of these things makes the Muslim community upset. In fact, some of these reports of some of these headlines don't even mention the other community as Muslim community. They just say other community. That's how much obfuscation is going on in the media over this incident. So when Hindus complain that there is a clear double standard in the media, there it is right there. And unfortunately, it's clear when you particularly look at it from the point of view of the Indian media and from the point of view of the intellectual establishment, that Hindu lives do not matter, at least to these people, as much as Muslim lives. Having said that, though, I don't think it's right to place all the blame on the media. I think we have, as a community, Hindus have to take some of the blame as well. And the reason I say this is because Benjamin Netanyahu was in India on a trip, and he spoke at this thing called the Raisina Dialogues, and he gave a speech. And he said some things at these dialogues that really resonated with me, and that really resonates with the situation of the Hindus in India. So let me play you a clip first.
75 years ago, our people were like a wind-tossed leaf. A third of our people were destroyed, and yet there I was standing representing the Jewish people in this great nation of India. What led to this transformation? It was our understanding of the principal lesson of Jewish history, and also a simple lesson in our turbulent region. And it is this: the weak don't survive. The strong survive. You're able to maintain peace by being strong. And therefore, the first requirement of Israel from the time of our first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, was to achieve the minimal strength that is required to assure our existence.
So like you can see that I completely agree with what he says here. He says the weak will not survive. Only the strong survive. And you need some minimum required strength to ensure your existence. This has always been the downfall of the Hindus historically. We're not a weak people, we're a very strong people, but we tend to be disorganized, and that disorganization makes us weak. When an incident happens to a Muslim where a Muslim is at the receiving end of some violence, the Muslim community rallies around it like nothing else. And of course, the media establishment rallies behind that as well, and they create so much noise that it is absolutely impossible to ignore. And I know that our community does not have the media establishment by our side, but we do have strength in numbers, at least for now. We have to make sure that we're more organized around things like these. We have to make sure that we do not let deaths like this just pass. You know, we're angry for a couple of days and then everybody forgets about it. Because if you forget about it, it's going to happen again. If you forget your history, you are doomed to repeat it. We have to make sure that we organize. We have to make sure that we use this unprecedented advantage that social media provides us to our advantage. We have to make sure that we organize, and we have to make sure that these things trend incessantly on Twitter. These things trend incessantly on Facebook. We have to make sure that we organize and we create enough noise that it is impossible for the media to ignore us. It is impossible for governments to ignore us, and the governments have no choice but to look into these matters seriously and to apprehend the people responsible, so that the people responsible for things like this know that this cannot and will not be allowed to happen in the future. We have to move away from being passive when things happen in another part of the country, because in the larger picture, in the bigger picture, it does affect all of us. We have to be united and we have to be proactive. So at the end of the day, if you take one lesson from this incident, it is this. It is that bullies will always push you. Bullies will always keep pushing you to see where your boundaries are. And if we don't set boundaries, we will keep being pushed. We've already been pushed out of Pakistan. We've already been pushed out of Bangladesh. We are on the verge of being pushed out of Kashmir. How far are we as a community willing to be pushed? It is important that we set boundaries. It is important that we draw lines in the sand. We can tolerate dissent. We can compromise. We can tolerate all kinds of free speech and word. But we must draw a line in the sand that violence will not be tolerated in any form from other communities. Hindus and the general Indian nation must come out and must draw that line in the sand. Otherwise, this problem will never be solved, and otherwise we will continue to be pushed. We have to create a minimum general required strength in our community so that people know this community will not compromise on certain matters. You know, there are many things we can do. You know, uniform civil law is one of those things. There's plenty of things that we could do, but I think as a community, we have to agree on that principle first and foremost, so that we do not have another Chandan Gupta, so that we do not have another Hindu death in vain. And I want to throw that question out to you. What do you think? What do you think as a community we can do? How do you think we can organize better? And how do you think we can stop being so passive about what happens to Hindus in different parts of the country, or even in different parts of the world? I would really like to hear your thoughts on this issue. So please let me know your opinions in the comment section down below, because I'd love to hear them. All right, and that's today's show. It was a bit of a more serious tone to today's show. But if you did like today's episode, please make sure to like this episode. Please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Please make sure to share the show. Please make sure to tell people about the show. And if you're not already, please make sure to subscribe to the show's channel. All right, again, thank you very much for watching today's episode. I am in the middle of organizing some interviews to do for you guys for the show, and I will inform you when those things are getting closer. Again, I will see you on Wednesday, and until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon.